Я русский военный корабль. Предлагаю сложить оружие и сдаться во избежание кровопролития и неоправданных жертв. В противном случае по вам будет нанесен бомбово-штурмовой удар. Длинный остров. Я русский корабль. Повторяю. Предлагаю сложить оружие, сдаться, иначе по вам будет нанесен удар. Как поняли меня? Прием. Русский военный корабль, иди нахуй.
So my name is Dr. Bernadine Bank. I'm an obstetrician gynecologist in the United States. I live in the state of Washington, and right now I do gynecology outpatient services for a clinic in Spokane, Washington. My family is big. I am the youngest of 10 children. I was raised outside of Chicago, Illinois, and I'm the youngest, so my siblings all are older, and I have lots of nieces and nephews, and I have 2 children of my own. I lived in Dallas, Texas for a while, about 19 years, and then moved up to Washington State in 2006. I'm in Ukraine now because, number one, I am really upset about what's happened in terms of the last 2 years since Russia invaded Ukraine. And I think that it is important to bring attention to this topic. In the United States, we are not voting to give the money that Ukraine needs to end this war. And so the longer this goes on, the more civilians and innocent people are killed. So that's a big reason that I'm here, is to actually bring attention to this topic. And since I am currently running for Congress, I'm in a good position to get that message out and make sure that all the Americans throughout the country, but particularly in my district, are aware of how important it is for Americans to support this effort and make sure that Ukrainians get the appropriate funding and whatever tools and weapons they need to end this. I think what I am feeling is until you're actually in it, like you can sort of imagine what someone else is going through, but until you've had a more personal experience with it, you can't fully imagine it. And I think I still can't fully imagine what it is to be Ukrainian at this time during this war. But there were a number of times when I, heard alarms going off, and people looking at their phones because they have a special app to say when there might be missiles incoming. And imagining like that happening multiple times a day over a long period of time, I had a little taste of that.
During night, if you hear the air raid going off, means it will be, or rather, Shahed drones or ballistic or rockets, so you have to take it serious. If you hear it during night, you have to get yourself comfortable with something warm and go downstairs to the first floor of your hotel, and then we'll proceed to go to the bomb shelter. Usually it takes up to 5 hours, so we may spend the whole night in the bomb shelter. If it's ballistic, you have 2 minutes to hide. We'll report when it's ballistic and we'll find the bestest shelter possible. Usually it will be the subway station. If we are somewhere on the open space and in 2 minutes we didn't get anywhere, we have to lay down on the ground.
Okay.
This is the only way possible. Ballistics are extremely hard to shoot, and Kyiv is the main target, so yeah. We hope it doesn't happen. It happens rarely, but just in case, I have to inform you.
Okay.
So when we say ballistics and we have to hide, and we have 2 minutes, we mean these.
Okay. One of the outings outside of Kyiv was to Irpin and Bucha. And in Irpin, the Ukrainian soldiers actually blew up a bridge to prevent the advance of the Russian army. But in the process of that, they also had a number of civilians that needed to be evacuated. And that whole process, I think we saw a fair bit of footage of that on TV in America. But again, just being there and seeing the area that they all had to cross with children, with animals, with the elderly, and it was again just a very powerful moment to imagine what the civilians were experiencing. As we moved forward, we saw an area where vehicles were piled high, and all these vehicles had bullet holes in them. A number of them burned, and a number of them had toys or small stuffed animals in them on the dashboard or along the front window area. And when you saw those toys, that was a symbol that there had been children in that car that had been killed. And many of these civilians were escaping. They were running away. They were evacuating, and even with children in the car, they were targeted and killed. So this whole huge pile of vehicles, many houses had been destroyed. The Russians, when they came through, were just shooting the tanks side to side along streets and taking out home after home after home. What is, again, impressive is that many of these have been rebuilt, and we're talking in less than 2 years. They have rebuilt them, people have moved back into the area, and they are doing their best to resume normal life. This afternoon we'll be visiting a facility called the Superhuman Prosthetic Center, and I've heard a lot about this, and I'm really excited to be visiting this facility today. It sounds like they are probably far more advanced than anyone else in the world, again, because they have to be. This has been kind of put upon them, not something they would have necessarily chosen to do, but now that this circumstance has come up, they're taking it on and making things better for their people. This facility, they have all levels of rehabilitation, and most of the individuals who attend this clinic, it's my understanding that they have lost one or more limbs, and they're getting prosthetic devices to make them, again, be able to function on a high level in society and get normalcy back in their lives. Many of them are, of course, the part of the military, and apparently a number of them, as soon as they get their prosthetic and they're released, they go back to the front lines.
The main idea of this center is join all of the services which patient need in one place. Why? Because our patient usually looking for the services in different hospitals. And we know that people with amputation can achieve success if the time between amputation and procedures is very short.
Мене звуть Євген, мені 30 років. Я сам з Донецька, з окупованої території ще з 2014 року. Хотів би сказати, донатьте на ЗСУ, більше відправляйте допомоги, яка буде більш ефективніше і буде швидший результат.
The maternity ward, it's basically been completely almost renovated, and a lot of that is thanks to the international community helping to donate when resources were low and resources were needed.
Ми приймаємо найбільшу кількість пологів по Україні. Минулого року тут народилося більше 4600 дітей. Львівський перинатальний центр налічує 21 відділення. І за останніх 2,5 роки ми відкрили принципово нових 12.
Probably the most unique thing that they did, because they had to, was develop basically a whole underground bomb shelter maternity ward that can do C-sections, can do deliveries, antepartum care, postpartum care, and all this can happen in the basement in a much safer location when needed. And my understanding is that they actually have had to put that part of the hospital to use. I don't know exactly how many times, but that part of the hospital has been used because the community was under attack. Kyiv, the capital of Ukraine, we were there for a few days visiting, and when we got off the train, off the metro, close to our hotel, the very first thing we saw was a memorial to I'm pretty sure they were all civilians killed in 2014 when the revolution across the country started, and this apparently was played out in multiple cities across Ukraine. As we continued through the city, we saw other memorials to things that have happened. A lot of these memorials have to do with the current war or things that have happened since the invasion of Ukraine by the Russians in 2022. One area was just a pile of homemade barricades that is now being left on display outdoors, so they're all kind of rusted and kind of piled up, and just individual citizens made them in their homes to barricade Kyiv. On October 10th of 2022, the Russians blew up this walking bridge, and the Ukrainians rebuilt that in 3 months. Pretty impressive. While in Kyiv, I visited a number of important historic sites, and one that has become very meaningful for me is the sculpture called Motherland. This is over 100 meters tall, so multiply that by 3 to get that in feet. And the sculpture is a woman. It's in silver, and it's a woman who has a shield in one hand with the Ukrainian trident on it and a sword in the other hand.
These are the Shahid drones, which Russia purchased from Iran. They started using these drones massively in 2023. These guys they're horrible, and the destruction they bring is unbearable. You can see the videos over there. They're extremely loud, they're very fast. We now know how to hit them, but still we don't have enough ammunition. We hit them with machine guns, and you can see it's made from...
It's just like fiberglass or
yeah,
something.
it's
like
just
flimsy.
It's cheap.
Really flimsy. So yesterday I visited a pediatric hospital, which actually also has a whole maternity ward. And the maternity ward is relatively new, developed here in the last year or two. And they have a robust department for maternity now that looks like it's continuing to grow. This is one thing that we don't have To my knowledge, I don't think any hospital in the pediatric hospital in the United States has this, and they have in-hospital schools. There were 5 different locations throughout this hospital where pediatric patients attend school if they have long-term hospitalizations. Of course, this is most likely going to be a lot of the unfortunate oncology cases. And the schooling is done in conjunction with the patient's school from their hometown. Other aspect that I think was very impressive, particularly out in front at the pediatric hospital, was their physical therapy department and their rehabilitation department. So many of the incidents since the war involve children getting maimed, losing limbs, having injuries that are creating long-term disabilities for them. And what the focus is to make sure that they get rehabilitation. In fact, they said they even start in the operating room at the end of surgery is how early they start this rehabilitation. That's their way of realizing how important this is and how much of an impact that makes to get started really early with physical therapy. So one thing I learned while I was here is, and I didn't know this is pretty amazing. Ukrainians have an incredible knack for rebuilding very quickly. And we just don't have this in the United States. It drags on for years between everybody having to get their piece in order. But here, once they have the resources, they're off to the races and they blossom and they grow. And what I've learned is that over the last 10 years, this growth has just been exponential. And so when I was at the Oncology hospital, it's happening there. They are just have technology that is way more advanced than I anticipated, and the whole team is like so determined that you just know that they are going to keep this moving and that they're going to have. They already have a state-of-the-art facility, but it's just going to keep getting more and more impressive. So I was really taken by the amount of pride and energy that they are putting into making sure that they are basically a world leader in oncology, and they're definitely moving and really doing some great things.
It's all oncology center, and we have a lot of departments here, different department, surgical department, radiology department, and chemotherapy. From another districts, they have 2 oncology hospital, but we have the biggest one.
Ukrainians are determined to not just survive, but to thrive. They are on the front lines of democracy, and they are the shield for the rest of the world. We need to do everything within our power as Americans to provide whatever support they need, including financial backing and weapons, to protect freedom and democracy around the world. I'm Dr. Bernadine Bank, and I approve this message.